The Cedric Maxwell podcast is brought to you by FanDuel, the exclusive wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network.
Back with another episode of the Cedric Maxwell podcast. I am Josue Pavone, joined by Cedric Maxwell as the NBA free agency rolls on. The Celtics signed two new players. Damian Lillard requested a trade. Marcus Smart talking for the first time since the trade went down, the one that sent them to Memphis, and he's actually was introduced officially as a member of the Memphis Grizzlies. But let's start with what happened with Grant Williams. Grant Williams traded, part of a three-team swap. And, of course, this episode, just like every episode of the Cedric Maxwell podcast, brought to you by FanDuel. Head to FanDuel.com/Boston, where you can win big. That's FanDuel.com/Boston. Grant on the move.
Well, let me ask you a question here. Since you said that, did FanDuel have this? Could you have bet on this? If Grant would have got traded or not?
Grant would have got traded. I don't think they had that one listed, but if it was, I feel like people might have won big. I mean, I don't know. How do you call it here? I mean, look, the 4-year, $54 million deal with the Mavericks. I mean, that's solid, right? That's a great contract for someone like Grant. 3-team deal. The San Antonio Spurs were involved as well. So let's get 2 future second-round picks, and San Antonio also picked up a player, but the Celtics didn't pick up a player here, right? I mean, does that part surprise you? And if so, what do you think led to Grant Williams leaving Boston?
I just think that Brad Stevens and Joe Mazzulla felt like his relationship with this team had run its course. I like Grant. Grant was one of your smarter players you had. He was a guy who was experienced in the playoffs. He could defend multiple positions. He could guard centers, guards, forwards. Those are pieces that are hard to let go. Mm. And that is why I feel like, I don't know, for whatever reason, I'm not saying I know anybody in the office, but I just think this isn't the last shoe to drop. I think there's something else in the works. Dame Lillard out there saying, and Stephen A. Smith said, well, tell Boston that they better not trade go out and say, we're going to get Dame Lillard, because Dame Lillard wouldn't be happy. He would. And I said, that's the same thing that Kevin Garnett said. Mm-hmm. Kevin Garnett originally wanted to go to Los Angeles and play with Kobe, and decided at the last moment to come here and team up with Paul and Ray. And we know what happened. They became a stick. If you are able to get Dame Lillard, I think you start looking at his age, how long he's going to be around. I think he has 3 or 4 more years left on his contract. And he's been durable, but he didn't, I think last year, Portland shut him down late in the season. So I'm kind of surprised.
Yeah, I mean, you wonder clearly this is a way to save money, right? To get far as possible from the second apron, tax apron, right? And I think that has a lot to do with this deal. I mean, Reggie Bullock is the player that's involved as well. He's going to San Antonio, but you wonder what the next move is. Is Malcolm Brogdon still a piece that you're trying to move? Are you still going to address that front court in another way, right? Whether that's the TPE that you get from this deal, which is worth just over $6 million, or do you revisit that Malcolm Brogdon deal? But I just wonder if you're going to make a deal like that for Damian Lillard, and if that's even on your radar, getting those ducks in a row, it's a big part of it, right? So that would essentially mean, obviously, parting with Grant, but again, try and create more space by parting with Malcolm Brogdon. But I mean, it's conflicting reports, though, right? There's another report out here saying that the Celtics aren't interested at all in Damian Lillard, right? Shutting down that rumor. I mean, I think for the most part, it's easy to believe why Jaylen Brown wouldn't be involved. I still do think that this franchise is gearing towards giving him that max deal or something like that. The negotiating is clearly still going on here, but if you're able to trade for someone like Damian Lillard and you're not giving up Jaylen Brown, I mean, look, people can say what they want about his injury history. I still think it's worth that 2 to 3 year window, like you just said. Man, that's a super team. That's a team that's at the top to win it all. If you're able to pull something like that off, and if it's not feasible, then what's Plan B, right? Because the Celtics have to, in my opinion, at least make one more move to address that front.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that if you have Porzingis, you're saying you're going to have both your super forwards, Brogdon, White. This is still a formidable team. Are you going to pull that lever? Are you pushing all in at the table if you're playing Texas Hold'em? Brad Stevens, everybody's been complaining for the longest time. Oh, Brad, he won't make any moves. Well, guess what? Brad made moves.
Right.
And a lot of people were uncomfortable with those moves. For me, personally, these were two players I really liked. I had a personal relationship with Grant, obviously being from Charlotte, North Carolina, knowing his mom, knowing his family. Marcus has been around, forever, it seems like. And you've always heard me speak glowingly of Marcus. If I had to get a couple of guys who could play in the 80s, Marcus would have been one of those guys. So to lose him and to send him away, I think that trade though really was forced when Brogdon did not pass the test.
Right.
Because
well, they didn't have time to bring him in.
Porzingis was still available, and he had to have another piece immediately. And Marcus Smart happened to be that piece.
Right.
So, when Brogdon failed the physical, reportedly it was Brogdon that was leaving and Porzingis was coming in, and that was going to be your team. When Brogdon failed the physical, now all of a sudden you still got Porzingis out there. So you're looking like, okay, what do I have to give up?
Well, the Clippers didn't even get a chance to do the physical, right, Max? It makes you wonder if this was like a take it or leave it type of deal, right? With the Marcus Smart one in their back pocket, knowing that they were going to be able to pull that off because Memphis Grizzlies were more than eager to sign up for that deal, right? So you wonder what happened there. Like, were they trying to trade Brogdon without enough time for them to, do the physical with obviously that deadline that was looming, that midnight deadline where Porzingis, if he opts out of his contract, the Celtics have no chance of getting this guy. They couldn't sign him as a free agent. It had to be through a trade. So there's a lot of moving parts here. And that's something that Marcus Smart, giving us the exclusive, CLNS Media, the exclusive, myself, along with Bobby Manning, Gary Washburn was also there, John Corrales, very small group of guys that went to this event that was at the Dana Barrows Basketball Center, where he pretty much took his time and telling everyone that, look, it's sad that it had to end like this, but at the same time, I was shocked. Marcus Smart saying that he found out, he was told a week before the trade that he was safe, essentially, right? He went to bed that night, Max, thinking that he's going to play with Porzingis in Boston, and that Malcolm Brogdon was the one on the move.
Steph Curry, night. Yeah, okay.
His fiance woke him up, saying, "Hey, Marcus, you want to take this call here?" Matter of fact, I just got the phone with your agent, and looks like we're heading to Memphis. Like, that's how he found out, Max.
Wow. And that's why I said you can't take any other way other than the fact this is a business. And Brogdon, who's been around for a while, even if he was going to get traded, hopefully he's not disgruntled and he understands that this is a business and you're going to move. The thing that happens, though, too, Josue, is this. If you've never been traded, it's going to hurt. My first trade when I left the Celtics going to the Clippers, there was a lot of emotion leaving the team. Now my next trade going to the Houston Rockets, it was like no big deal, But your first trade, the first dislike that you have from another team is crazy. But put it in a nutshell. He was wanted by another team. Yeah. Memphis has tried for the longest time to find out if there was a way to get Marcus Smart. And they were able to, pull that trigger and do what they need to do.
Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what led to my, I think it was my second question that I asked Marcus was like, the other side of that, obviously everyone always drops the line, the NBA is a business, these type of things happen. But, the silver lining is that there's a team that really wants you, right? The one that pulled the trigger on the deal that's acquiring you, and that's the Memphis Grizzlies. What are some of the first things that cross your mind when you're going to Memphis? And he immediately was just like, man, like, that's a culture I can fit in, I can thrive in. They finished second in the West last year. Hopefully they can compete for a championship. I mean, all that is certainly on the table for Marcus, but you wonder how the Celtics are gonna, obviously you bring in Porzingis, but is there another move looming? Is there another one, in that we're not seeing right now because of all the craziness that's going on right now? Look at these guys that are moving, that switching teams here.
I believe Brad has to make another move to shore that front court up, because if you're talking about having Porzingis, who's been hurt, Al, who's not playing, back to back, Rob Williams, who's often been hurt, who's the next piece that you have up? Unless you're going to play Tatum and Brown a little bit more at the forwards.
Right.
And who's going to be a starting guard now? Who's going to start for you? Is it going to be White and who? Are you going to have Brown as a primary ball handler?
Right. That's what I wanted to ask you, Max. Do you feel comfortable with this backcourt? I mean, all of a sudden it went from being crowded to being they're not quite as talented as last year, but the season's not over, right? Or this offseason's not over. But
yeah, I was asked that same question, Josue, on television on Comcast or NBC
Sports, yeah.
And they said to me, are the Celtics today stronger today than they were the last game of the season? And I'd have to say no. I don't think they were stronger. Now, I think there are moves to be made and they can be stronger. But right now, that team was an ankle injury away from being in the finals and possibly winning.
Mm.
So I'm really concerned. I'm really concerned. How are those pieces going to work together? Is Porzingis going to be that dude scoring the ball, shooting the jump shot? Do you want another jump shooting center, or do you want somebody in the paint? Porzingis has that length, that size. He can take you in the paint and get score.
Mm.
I think you did miss that when you had him out there on the floor. You did miss the fact that you did not get scoring enough from Al, who is getting older, and Rob Williams, who never has really developed any moves, left-handed or right-handed around the rim.
Right.
His lob game was crazy. Upstairs, I love that.
But no post.
When you get him 5 to 10 feet away from the basket, you eliminate almost any shot opportunity he's going to have. Whereas that doesn't happen if you have Porzingis on the floor.
Right. No, it's true.
Now, here's the other thing. Are you forcing right now the hand of Tatum and Brown to be more of a leader?
1,000%.
Since Marcus Smart was your heartbeat, if he was your heartbeat, now who's going to be your heartbeat? Who's going to be that dude? Because we've always known and we've always appreciated his toughness.
Right. It's interesting you say that, Max. It's interesting you say that because one of the quotes that stood out to me that Marcus said was, I'm eager, I'm excited to see how they grow, individually, but more importantly as leaders, right? Because this is the big season now, right? I mean, we were saying this a couple of years ago when Kemba was gone and Marcus took the point guard position, but Marcus was still calling a lot of those shots, obviously, as he was getting acclimated to that new position. But now he's gone, right? This is down to Tatum and Brown to see how they lead. Can they clear that final hurdle into a championship? Because there's no more, there was a conflict between the three. No, it's up to you two now. Mm. And for Marcus, I'm sure he's eager to see how this team responds with these two guys leading the way, And think about it like this too, Mac. If I'm Marcus, let's say hypothetically, right? Let's say 5-6 years down the road, the Celtics they win a couple championships. All is well. Tatum and Brown pulled it off. If I'm Marcus, in a joking manner, right? I'm gonna be like, man, congratulations, that's great. But just so you guys know, right? Like I had to be traded. They had to go and get Porzingis to help you guys out, to maximize the talent between you two. And I was sacrificed, like I think that's how he's going to look back at it. Not that, this team gave up on me. It was, no, I was sacrificed for the greater good of this team. And I think he's okay with that, but it's not easy. It can't be easy.
It's never easy. The 1986 team that won it, when Cedric Maxwell was traded away for Bill Walton. Mm. Bill Walton played one season and that was it. I was sacrificed at that time to go ahead and win a championship.
That's a great point.
I mean, I've been teased before by a couple of people in the media and said, no, you didn't win one championship. You won 3 championships. You win 2. You won 3 because
2. Yeah, I was gonna say you won 2.
Yeah, you won 3 because when you were traded for Bill Walton, that made them stronger. Well, it made them stronger for 1 year, and that was it. Man. So I played, I think, 3 more years. Bill Walton essentially played 1 year and he was done. It's an ego thing, though. Your ego is definitely taken in, and you're taken back because of who, what, and where. And I'm sure Grant's gonna feel the same way. But Grant went out and he got his bag. The Celtics didn't let him just walk. They were able to get 2 second-round picks for him,
right? And
they were able to get a trade exemption of a little bit more of $6 million.
Right.
How is Brad going to maneuver and use that as a weapon? Because you're kind of short-handed. I've heard people say, well, you get Dame Lillard, you're going to, you essentially, everybody you have right now is gone. And you're going to have to fill the roster with a bunch of people who are on minimum contracts. Kind of like the Lakers. Kind of like the Lakers have done over the last couple of years. Get guys, who are making $2 million or whatever it is in the NBA, but NBA $2 million that's the bargain. That's a basement price for guys right now playing a year in the NBA. So I'm just kind of I'm kind of apprehensive, but again, I'm excited. And I'm excited also about Sam Cassell coming aboard.
Yeah.
Other assistant coaches coming aboard. Strengthening your hand from your coaching standpoint with experience. I love the guys that they had there who are coaches. But I think that the Celtics felt like they wanted more experience, and they have that. So you're putting this hodgepodge together. And this is going to be a statement about Brad. Where Brad is. It's a statement about Tatum and Brown, because you don't trade Marcus Smart unless you get there okay.
Yeah.
You're not trading. In the NBA now, you have to get your best players, have to be on board for almost anything you do, especially if that player like Tatum is going to have his contract is coming up and you want to do a super max to him. You go through him. So this had to be okay through, some people around there who saw all these things about to happen.
Take your first bet at Betting MLB on FanDuel and get 10 times your first bet amount in bonus bets, up to $200. That's right. Just bet $20 and you'll land $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. That's $200. You can spend betting everything from the money line to over-under to who you think is going to hit the first home run. All on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. There's no better place to bet on MLB than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So sign up today and visit FanDuel.com/Boston to get up to $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/Boston. FanDuel, official partner of Major League Baseball.
This is Porzingis. He's always been that unicorn. He always been, when he was first drafted by the Knicks fans booed him. Then the next thing you know, the Knicks fans were cheering him. Then they booed him again when he was going out of town. He goes down to Dallas. It wasn't what they thought they would get.
Right.
They sent him off to Washington. And then Washington obviously had to say, well, we're good here. And now Boston is
but they was selling everybody, Max. So Brad saw the writings on the wall. He knew what was going on there. So, but he did get the extension though for the Celtics for 2 years. Mm-hmm. So, but I mean, there's some people that might say, well, if he gets hurt this upcoming season, now you're stuck with it. You know what I mean? So it's a lot of moving parts here. But you have to look, if you're making a deal like this, like Brad did, you have to have some sort of commitment here. You're not gonna, have him come in for a season and all of a sudden you're back to square one after that season failed. So it's a risk. It's a big risk, but I think Brad is dead set. He's really committed to this core. These three.
Yeah, I think I think he is very committed. And, like you guys had your exclusive with Marcus Smart, I had mine on the elevator about a year and a half ago. It was 2:00 in the morning. We had just arrived in Orlando. The team was just starting to turn around and play well. And I've told this story before. I'm talking to Marcus, and both of us going down to get our bags, and said, "Man, you guys are playing well." And he looked at me and said, "That's what happens when you let your fucking point guard handle the basketball." So that was a huge statement.
Yeah.
And he is, to me, essentially, he's delivered. That's what is crazy about this. Marcus has delivered. And
he's been humble too, man.
I guess that's why I'm not using the word disappointed, but I don't know what word I'm using when it comes to losing a guy like Marcus Smart. Disappointed is the word I want to use, but I know the business and I know what happens. And Brad obviously wanted to make a move, and hey, it might work. It might work out. Hopefully, it works out well.
And I think he was professional because he could have, he said what he said and that he was shocked because he didn't expect that to happen, but he's not holding any grudges here. He's not saying like, oh, the organization did me dirty or anything like that. He's saying, look, if you guys think that making this deal is going to make you guys better, then I'm for it. In other words, I don't want to be in a place where I'm not wanted. Like, if that's the move, you guys think you're going to be better that way? All right, I'll go my way, you go your way. Hey, Memphis is not a bad situation to be in. And 9 years is a long time, but it is what it is. And I think that's the kind of Marcus that's the kind of response I expected from Marcus. But the whole I was told I was safe thing, I was a little surprised to hear that the Celtics went out and said that. Maybe they didn't go out and guarantee it, but you would think there'd be some sort of like, hey, it's a possibility, but it's not likely, something like that. Instead of the full like, hey, you're safe, don't even sweat it type of.
Do you think this is like the shelf life of that leftover food you have in your refrigerator right now? Where you going, man, hey, I'm gonna eat this tomorrow.
Yep.
I'm gonna eat it tomorrow. And you open the lid up and go, whoa.
3 days later.
I think I'm gonna have to toss this thing. That was gonna be my dinner, but now I'm good here. Everybody has a shelf life. I don't care how it works out. Everybody has a shelf life that you're gonna move on or other things are gonna happen. We all both remember when Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett got traded down to Brooklyn, and Brooklyn was all up in arms thinking they were about to win the championship. And that was an ugly little period for Brooklyn. And Brooklyn bounced back and recovered, which was crazy. But all the moves around the league, Kyrie Irving signing an extension on his contract,
Max, remember too,
in a nice little bag.
If Boss doesn't do that, you don't go out and draft Tatum and Brown, right? You got those picks from Brooklyn. So that was one of those like, hey, we have to make this move. Time for the new era. But yeah.
So, the whole league has kind of bounced around. It's some nice little surprises. The guy who was Bruce Brown was the guy who was the Boston player, from Boston, who was with Denver, wins the championship and goes back and signs a $40 million deal with Denver.
With Denver,
And there's another scenario which comes into play too. You have to think about this. If Brown, and I'm not sure, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but look what happened with Tyler Hero, or what could happen to Tyler Hero. If you go out and sign Brown now, you can't trade him this
for a year. Yeah.
But next year, all bets are off, and you would have a huge contract with a huge player that some team might want to have, and you might want to leverage that. So there's a lot of movable parts now that we both are seeing.
Right. And, after the cameras went off, we had an extended conversation with Marcus, and I thought what he said was dead on. Like, this is the part where I'm just like, okay, yeah, like that's usually how it goes in this business, right? And he said, look, we've been at this thing for quite some time, right? I've been here 9 years. We came close to 2022. Got lost Game 7 Eastern Conference Final. It was bound to happen. There was gonna be a shakeup. I didn't think it would be this soon. I figured it would be me because, let's face it, they're not gonna trade one of the Jays. And he said that with a laugh. He wasn't saying that it's like, like he was mad about it, but he was just like, I just didn't think it was going to be this summer, you know? And I really believed him when he said that. Like, man, I thought that in my mind, I'm not putting words in his mouth, but I'm thinking he probably thought at least one more year, one more crack at this thing. And the Porzingis thing, you know, you go to bed thinking Brogdon's the one out. Man, I'm going to work with Porzingis. We're going to do this thing. We got a new core. And then your fiance wakes you up, man. It's just like, nah, man. Like, I got a whole nother story here to tell you. Like, man, it's tough.
I mean, that those trades happen. I always tell people about my last trade that I was one of the first salary caps hits when I was with Houston my last year.
Right. Yeah.
And getting a call from my good buddy, Don Chaney, who had become the head coach of the Rockets. And he calls me up and says, Max, I got bad news. And I thought he was a friend of the family. So I thought something didn't happen to my baby girl or to my wife. And he said, well, we just traded you. And that was the one time I was shocked, but I was more shocked when I called my wife, or soon to be ex-wife, and told her, I said, I got some bad news for you. She said, I already know. I said, what? What do you mean you already know? Yeah, you got traded. I said, what? She said, yeah, I knew that this possibly could happen before you took this 16-hour drive to Houston. Now, the next thing in your mind, what comes out then? Why the fuck didn't you tell me?
Why didn't you mention it? Was that just a cautious thing, or did she just have like
what happened was that the answer she gave me was the answer that I could say I stopped my relationship. She said, I didn't tell you that you were going to get traded. And because Don Chaney's wife, Jackie, she said, I didn't tell you because I didn't want to get Don or Jackie in trouble.
Oh, wow. Jeez.
Ding, 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 ding.
When did you get the papers? When did you get the divorce papers?
You are not you're not playing for the home team anymore. And I was just like in shock. Yeah,
well, for real, what side you on? Yeah, right.
Even the day if I say that to her, she's like, you should got over it. I did. I got over it. I did. Got over our relationship because it was a matter at that time of this is in my camp. This is in my camp. It's been like Marcus Smart's. It's been, again, essentially.
Like the fiance did the same thing, right?
Yeah. I drove 16 hours. I just drove up. I was driving away from Charlotte. She's waving bye-bye. I'm like, oh, okay, bye-bye. Driving all the way 16 hours to get to Houston. As soon as I get there, Don calls me. Well, you've been what? Okay. Hey, well, Renee, I got some bad news. Oh, I already know. You already know what? That you're going to be traded. I was like, what? I said,
she's like, boy, he's going to be upset today.
Why didn't you tell me? I didn't want to get Don or Jackie in trouble for leaking the information to my husband. So, I mean, there are camps that you have and things that happen in your life. And sometimes they tell you more on that other side about what team you're with than, you're that person with the opposing team. They're not with your team anymore. So
maybe, in her defense, Max, maybe she was afraid that they were going to fumble the bag or something. Like it would interfere with your money or something. I don't know.
Just wait. This was my second. This would have been my third trade. It wasn't my second. I went to the Clippers. I went to Houston, and then Houston, I got traded to Washington, essentially for a salary cap dump. Yeah. I could have stayed home. Told the Rockets that, okay, I understand. I'll fly in that day. I didn't have to get in the car and drive 16 hours. That's what was that. That was just bizarre. Took my car.
You drove 16 hours to get traded. That's crazy.
16 hours to get traded when I was already in Charlotte. I didn't have to go. Didn't even have to go that way. So I know it's funny. It's bizarre, but that's what I'm saying. Strange things happen. When Marcus Smart is saying he had just heard from the team saying,
"You're good.
You're safe. You good. You good. Yeah, you good.
We traded Malcolm. Don't worry about that. We traded Malcolm. You good?
Until something happens to Brogdon, and we need to use you as an insurance chip to trade to get Porzingis. That's what's shocking, and that's what hurts. Especially
he's not dumb, Max. You don't make a deal in the final hour like that without knowing that they're in on Marcus. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't just call in the final hour like, hey, you guys want Marcus? Like, no, Memphis was like, oh, this is the call we're waiting for. Bet, let's do it. Boom.
Yeah, absolutely. And now here's the thing that is just as fascinating to me. What is it going to be like when Marcus Smart comes back to Boston for the first time?
Oh man,
the tribute video, number 36.
He's gonna try to fight it, Max, but I think he might tear up. I really do. I think he might tear up.
Yeah, and that's what I see. Yeah, I just see Marcus, who is has his heart on his sleeve, and it's an emotional thing. I didn't get the tribute video because it wasn't a jumbotron, but remember getting a standing ovation, and it was amazing the way
it was emotional, right?
And so for him to come back and at some time in the game, probably in the first quarter, whatever it is, it's going to be thank you, Marcus, and show the highlights and all that. It's going to be kind of crazy to have all the number 36 up in there, his jersey, and Marcus is back, yeah.
Everyone's going to be rocking it. He'll be rocking that same number down in Memphis. And he also said that he's going to dye his hair blue. I don't know. Maybe you watched our podcast or something, Max. But he said he's going to dye it blue. So everyone needs to relax.
You and I.
Well, hold on, Max. Hold on. Let me say something real quick, though, because this kind of annoyed me a bit. I mean, so after our episode and even before that, there were people saying how they were criticizing people who had photoshopped his hair to look blue. There were some reports that are like, oh, he's a Memphis Grizzly, And the people were like, oh, that's so disrespectful. He did that, when his mom passed, he did that for his mom because his mom had died. I'm like, okay, there's a couple things here. One, he continued it because his mom loved it. True. Okay, that part is true. But two, he did it because he plays for the Celtics, Max.
Yeah,
he didn't tie his hair green and say, Mom, do you like it? Okay, I'm going to keep it. Like, he initially, it's like the chicken and the egg thing. What came first? You know what I mean? Like, it's like, clearly.
Yeah, how much is your dedication when you dye your hair the color of your team? That's how dedicated you were to this franchise.
And I can't think of another Celtics player who's more proud to be a Celtic than Marcus in the last 9 years. There's not even close. Not even close.
Yeah. The only one I can think that probably would have had the same kind of conviction or pride could have been Isaiah Thomas.
That's very close, very similar.
He, for him to do some of the things he did, to play with the injuries, the sister died and he played that night. That was a conviction that I said, whoa, that is absolutely crazy.
Unbelievable. He was emotional before, went out there, dropped 50 plus, and a month later he's traded. That's something people still talk about. But it was, not to take the words out of Marcus' mouth, but like for the greater good, right? I mean, what happened after that? Guys like, Al Horford, Gordon Hayward, it kind of put the Celtics on the map, right? Like, man, I can help those guys. Those guys, I could be the missing piece. It led to other signings, in my opinion, right? I mean, Al played that last year with Isaiah, but, putting the Celtics back on the map, so to speak, made Al think, okay, yeah, I'll sign. And at the time, it's probably till to this day, it's the biggest free agency signing, between him and Gordon Hayward, historically. But the Celtics did go out and sign a couple people, though, Max. I mean, one guy is a power forward, Oshae Brissett from the Indiana Pacers, a Syracuse alum. So Bobby Manning and A. Sherrod Blakely are really excited about this signing. And then he also went out and got Dalano Banton, who was he was the third string point guard for Toronto, 6'7" guard. Just goes inside, facilitates, doesn't have much of a shot, but really someone that can kind of set the table. But
let me ask you this: that was it. Either one of those things that they moved the needle for you?
Brissett, we got to see what he looks like when he has more of an opportunity. But again, I'm not sold that this is a championship roster until they bring somebody else to that front court, man. Like, it's not a championship roster. We have to wait and see. But right now, on paper, as they say, it is what it is. We'll see what they look like. They're very top heavy, if you will, right? Porzingis, Tatum, Brown, Porzingis, Rob, it dwindles from there, right? Brogdon, Derek White.
No, you got Brogdon, Derek White.
It's a strong lineup.
You still got a very, very good team. If those guys, if Brogdon was healthy last year, you probably probably beat, you go out and beat Miami. But when he was hurt, that was a big piece. But what really facilitated this to me was the growth of Derek White.
Yeah,
that was the piece that you could see that he had transitioned probably by Marcus as a defender, one-on-one defender. But you get those two guys together, man, they were pit bulls, man.
Man, he finished the season with more blocks than Bam Adebayo, Max.
Yeah, when you watch Derek White, what he did, during the playoffs, and his growth last year was tremendous as a scorer, as a defender, a facilitator. But everybody you talk to, though, they say the same thing. Every player that I've heard talked about Marcus Smart and how he's going to be missed. So we'll get a chance to see that.
Marcus tells us that every single Celtics player reached out to him.
Wow.
Whether social media, whether text message, he heard from everyone. And he wanted to make it clear that there is no beef between Jalen and Marcus, which somewhat started on social media because of the way Tatum, he posted something on Instagram saying, like, I'm going to, we'll connect together, one of these days, and, I'll miss you. And Jalen's not really someone who's going to be posting stuff like that, in my opinion, right? I never took that as like, oh, man, Jalen, it's your turn. Go ahead and say something about Marcus. Like, that's just not who he really is. I never looked at it that way, but there were some people that were speculating that maybe that what led to the deal. But he's like,
well,
no,
you know what? You want that. You want that. And that was I think one of the most disappointing things to me was I never heard from any of my teammates when I got traded.
Wow,
I didn't hear from Larry. I didn't hear from Kevin. Robert kind of spoke about me, but I didn't hear from him personally. All the guys who were left over, Danny, didn't hear from none of those guys. So that was the one thing I wish they'd say, man, we had a great run. And I would have been sober. I said, man, you're right. We had a great run. It's over. Good luck. Good luck. And that's all you want at that particular time. And hopefully he got that from the players. And hopefully they gave him not the Instagram thing, man. Just call me on the damn phone, man. Call me on the phone and wish me good luck. Be a man about this thing. Call me and say, Marcus, thumbs up, man. Good luck to you. And, we'll see each other down the line. And I like what Tatum said, you'll always be my brother. And so that was really cool stuff for me when one of your best players says that.
No, definitely.
Is that Marcus calling you?
Yo, he wants to talk to you. No, definitely. Man, that really threw me off. Yeah, no question. I mean, when he reminded everyone in that same interview, right? Like, hey, this is a guy that was on the airplane back to Dallas when I had to say bye to my mom. Like, that says it all right there. Like he's someone that's I can imagine Marcus considers a brother just for that. And I also liked how he said, people can't really see the whole picture of our relationship all the time, but we're much closer than what it looks like. So, but that stuff. I mean, look, it's tough to see Marcus go, but I just think again, he's handled it so professionally, in my opinion, and I wish him the best. I really do. I think he's going to be a big part of what Memphis is trying to do next year. But lastly, man, we've got to get into this. Is we kind of talked about it briefly, but Damian Lillard requesting a trade out of Portland, man. Like, one, I'm not surprised, but from these reports, and the biggest one that came out of Friday evening was from Mark Medina, where he's saying that Damian Lillard he'll refuse to go to training camp if it's not the Miami Heat. Like, he's dead set on going to Miami. But you look at the options or what the Portland Trailblazers can acquire from the Heat, and it's not that great, Max. I mean, you're giving away arguably the greatest player of your franchise, and you want a package centered on Tyler Hero? I mean, how do you see this thing playing out? If you're Portland, do you give Dame what he wants in a sort of like a Minnesota and KG situation, or are you saying, look, if we're going to do this thing, we're going to maximize this deal and make sure that we're getting assets and we're getting everything that we want in this type of trade.
If I am them, I try to maximize my opportunities.
Right.
Boston has more that they can give you than basically anybody else out there that is a contender. Can you talk Dame Lillard into that? Remember exactly what we talked about a little bit earlier. Kevin Garnett, I talked to him personally. He wanted to go play in Los Angeles with the Lakers. He wanted to play with Kobe Bryant. He was talked into this by several people. Was it Telfair? It was somebody who talked to him about it.
Billups.
A player that talked to him.
I want to say it was Chauncey Billups.
Chauncey Billups talked to him and said,
ironically, the head coach of the
this is where you need to be. So if you're Dame Lillard, does he have friends like that? You know, I'm telling you what, and let me get this off my chest now. This fucking white party that they have in the Hamptons, I fucking hate it. Hate it.
Why? Is it the ugly all-white outfits or just the whole concept?
No, I don't mind the all-white. To me, and I know the NBA is different, but I'm not shaking somebody's hand that just kicked my ass in the playoffs. I'm not partying with this.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
I just don't. That's why even today, I don't have many friends who were on opposing teams because to me, it was that competitive edge that I wanted to have. That if I needed to dislike you to a point that, do a Draymond on you, kick you or trip you or something like that, I wouldn't feel bad about it. But if you're my best friend or my best buddy hanging out, Grant and this person and Tom Brady and this, and I'm not jealous of the fact that I didn't go, but I'm just saying from a standpoint of being a player.
Right.
And I understand things are different now, but I'm just not, I just don't feel good about the hanging out possibility. I don't feel good about Tatum being there. I don't feel good about Draymond being there. I don't feel good about the guys you just played.
It's going to ruin my buzz. It's going to ruin my buzz. I'm going to be like, you know what? All right, after like an hour or so, time for me to go. Because there's jokes.
You
got jokes. You're not going to be like, hey, buddy. Like, no.
Dude, they got your ass last year. And you buddied up with him. That to me, I saw Draymond.
Like, get in here, man. Get in here. Let's take a picture.
Arm in arm. I'm like, dude, I don't believe that.
I feel you on that.
That shit hurt me. So I needed to get that off my chest because I don't mind that Tom Brady was there. I don't give a damn he was there. Jay-Z was there.
Oh, you know his new the rumor.
Basketball players who were there who were competing. That to me still stings me when I think about how familiar you are with the combatants that you're going against.
Well, Max, you know who Tom Brady is rumored to be dating now, right? That's the new hot scoop.
I hope it ain't Scottie Pippen's, ex-wife.
You imagine? No, it's not.
Jesus Christ! This girl.
It's Kim Kardashian
with Michael Jordan's son. Is like, how disrespectful are you?
You see what he said about it? TMZ caught up with him and said, I don't approve. I don't approve. Dude, you can go out, you're Michael Jordan's son, you can date multiple people. But her record, her track record, what she's done so far, it's not good.
To me, that speaks volumes about okay, enough already.
Yeah, but do you step in? Do you say, son, you better break up with that?
And I'm sure he's probably, before he would come out, you very seldom you see Michael Jordan say anything publicly. I am sure that he said something to her like, dude, are you serious? Are you serious? I'm sure his ex-wife probably said, Scottie Pippen's ex-wife? Are you? So,
yeah, it's foul. That's just
so
foul.
I don't know who is Brady reportedly dating? I don't even know.
The one and only Kim Kardashian, who happened to be at that same party. Yep. They've been seen together. Nothing intimate, but that's a word on the streets.
Well, I tell you what, that she is. Say this about her: she's easy on the eyes. She is. I'll give you that. Her Beyonce, she is easy on the eyes. Jennifer Lopez, them chicks is easy on the eyes. So
and the ageless too.
He went there. How's he? 48. How's Tom Brady? About 40, 45, 46.
Yeah, somewhere around there. They're around the same age. Kim's up there.
She got to be in her late 30s by now or something.
No, she's in her 40s.
Oh, she's in her 40s?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I can see him doing that. As a fling, I can see him doing that.
As a fling, you never know.
Well, here's the thing about it. Just the way if you are Tom Brady, you can't go out with the average woman. You got to go out with somebody who has just as much to lose as you do.
Right.
And
I agree with that.
She has an empire in front of her. She has her name. She has all these things going on. Now she does have that, that husband, that ex-husband that's, a little out there, but
he's not going to be making jokes this time. Pete Davidson's one thing, but this is Tom Brady.
Yeah, exactly.
That's like you said. Those are two empires. Two empires coming together.
Pete Davis get a tattoo of Kim all over his body and all this stuff that.
Yeah, he's beyond making music at this point.
Put something else in there. I guess you could, but man,
he's beyond making music at this point, man. I miss the old Kanye, as they say. That's the line. I miss the old Kanye.
Well, that's just those are the ways of the world, brother.
I guess so. Well, with that, we wrap up this episode of the Cedric Maxwell podcast. I knew I'd get a great reaction out of you for that thing, but I didn't expect the Pippin thing to pop up. But what we do here, we keep it 100, man. That's what we do. We keep it on 100.
That's keeping it 100. What do you think Michael Jordan saying to his son? Son, you need to keep it on 100, okay? This is because you've never heard Michael mention and saying, "Hey, I don't like that. I don't approve." So that had to be chewing to him, boy, big time.
And he said it loud too, like with his back turned, like, "Nope, I don't approve. Like, get this on record. You got me recorded now saying this shit." Oh man, you already know, guys. Subscribe, rate us, iTunes, wherever you listen to your platform, whatever podcast platform you're rocking with. And of course, this episode is also brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel. Head to FanDuel.com/Boston and don't miss out on winning big this summer. They got you covered for sports betting and enjoying your summer, right?
Go out big with FanDuel right now. Maybe you can put down some money and see who's going to be next, going to be traded with the Celtics. Maybe that might work. I'm sure that FanDuel has something out there that is tasty enough for you, me, and everybody else when it comes to trades and moves, because there's speculation right now on Damian Lillard. Will he come? That would be something you could probably put money down with FanDuel. Definitely. So it's anything out there that you can possibly think about. FanDuel as your cover.
Prop bets, spreads, they got you covered. That's FanDuel.com/Boston. We'll see what happens with this crazy NBA free agency, and we'll be back with you next week to recap it all. That's going to do it for this episode. He's Cedric Maxwell. I am Josue Pavone. We'll see you guys next week.